Okay, could we please stand? And before we do the pledge, let's again have a moment of silence for the people in Ukraine and all people all over the world that are suffering from invasion or being treated not very nicely. And let's show them our support. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll start right in with our work session. And our first item on the agenda is the ROC, the ROC, and they have a request to use the pool, the community pool, during open hours from July 11th to August 12th, 5 times, and a total cost of $200. And the pool will already be fully staffed and accommodate members and daily patrons. And I don't know if Chris, did you want to talk about it at all, or?
No, I mean, so they're not looking for exclusive use. We really don't have the opportunity to give them during the week exclusive use of the pool. So, just kind of talking with them what their budget was and just trying to get them in at a reasonable price.
Yep. I believe that's very reasonable for them, and I'm sure they'll enjoy it. Guys, good with that?
You don't see any problem with overcrowding, right, Chris?
No, the pool is geared up for 300 people. On big hot days, we'll get about 150 or so. And I have plenty of staff during there at all times. We actually put on more staff than your recovery requires.
And this is a little bit early, right? It was wasn't it 1 to 2?
Yes, 1 to 2 o'clock.
So it's probably, yeah.
And excuse me, Chris, they're gonna have, they said about 8 members of their staff there as well supervising, or at least supervising their group anyways, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
And what sort of, I don't know if the right word is chain, but if there's an issue that they have or an issue that someone else has with them, is it just your guards are in charge and ultimately in charge there that day?
Yes, my lifeguards, my head guard out there will be in charge.
Thanks, Chris.
Yep.
Any other questions? We're okay with putting it on the agenda then? We're all good?
Yep.
Okay. Very good. Next, we have the temporary use permit for 42 North at the Knox parking lot, and John is here tonight. Would you like to come up, John, to the mic and just tell us what you were doing?
First of all, it's great to see everyone. Our annual Full Circle Festival, which is, I would classify it as it's a beer festival meets agritourism festival. So we'll have 12 breweries, 2 cideries, Cornell Cooperative, Providence Co-op Farm, and a few other local farmers kind of showing off their wares. So we have 200 tickets sold right now. My hope is we get to 400. We've had close to that when we used to host it at the brewery, but we've outgrown Person's Alley. So moved it up to the farm. $3 every ticket sold goes back to Friends of Knox Farm State Park. So it should be a great day, especially if the weather's like today. So the good news is, as of this morning, they did start mowing the paddock next to the stables. So I do believe we'll be able to get close to 200 cars in there. As our backup plan, though, I just like to have a safety net with the Knox soccer fields, just so people aren't parking on Girard and everywhere else. So it'll be a good problem to have if we need to put 100 cars into the soccer farm lot.
And as we discussed, you'd have someone available to cross the people.
Yeah,
from the park.
we'll have volunteers parking, and then we'll have a crossing guard there as well.
Good.
So if it worked out okay for Brewski, in spite of, well, Dave, your team did a great job in spite of rough weather, but we actually had 650 of 654 people show up for that event.
Wow.
So
Wow,
that was in spite of 5 degrees and 35-mile-an-hour winds. I'm probably hosting 3 to 4 different events at Knox Farm State Park. Formed a good partnership with them. As you know, parking's fairly limited up there, so really rely on the soccer fields for our ancillary parking.
Questions?
So you said you're going to provide, 42 North is going to provide a traffic crossing guard. Is that somebody who has experience or?
Well, I'll be working with Dave to find someone and we'll put them on payroll for that day.
Okay, so it won't just be,
Yeah, usually
Yep.
get, I already mentioned it today, Dave
Yep.
Thomason, certified crossing guard.
Yep.
So he did the broski and he's happy to help out.
Yep.
and how will people know to park at
Well,
Knox?
one thing we're pretty good at is sending out FAQs. So every ticket buyer receives an email from us Thursday before the event, letting them know where the parking options are, what time to arrive, what to wear, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, we'll inform them. And, I'm also, as I've done for Borderland in the past, I do like putting a logo and an arrow up on Knox Road so people aren't driving around the circle for an hour trying to figure out which way up.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the first impression of an event is parking. And if that doesn't work well, people tend to walk in pretty ticked off. So we like to take care of that first.
All right, thanks.
Anybody else?
Shane, did you have anything you wanted to add to that? No, all good?
While I have the floor, can I thank a few people? As a former rugby player, it was great to watch the rugby. And as a business owner, it was the best day we've had in 2 years.
Oh.
And I spoke to a number of businesses up and down Main Street that said the exact same thing. So thanks for that. It was a great event and it was great for a lot of businesses. So really appreciate that. Plus Buffalo won.
Yeah.
So that was great. Thank you.
Great.
And I
Thanks,
do, yeah,
John.
just to comment as well is that, we're here if, we don't have to see each other all the time, only when they're asking for a permit. If there's something that you have a good idea is how we can support
Yeah.
the businesses in town as well,
Yeah.
whatever that may be,
Yeah.
just contact us.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. You guys have always been great to work with, as has the village. And, we're really proud to call East Aurora and the town of Aurora our home as a business owner. And I've talked to a lot of communities that have not come back the way we've come back. So kudos to everybody for being so supportive.
That's good to hear.
Seriously, it's I can tell because our sales as a brewery, we're doing really much better here, but the places we used to sell beer to up and down, Erie and Niagara counties have not come back. So
I've done my best to help you out.
we appreciate that.
I'm just there to help.
I know the numbers were down when you were in Florida.
I don't know what that says.
So thanks again and hope to see you guys all soon. And if you can make it out to the event, please do, because it's a really cool showcase of the agricultural community in this area. Plus the beer will be good too. So
Great. Thanks, John.
Thanks.
All right. Next, we have the temporary use permit for the East Aurora Leap program. Is anyone here tonight representing them? Do you want to talk on that at all, Chris? Or?
As far as I'm aware, they're just looking to use the pond there for a quick fishing demonstration. One of their younger members is looking to teach a few of his friends how to fish or fish better. They're just going to stay right in that area. I don't foresee it being, it's only be 10 to 15 people.
Is there fish in that pond, Chris?
I believe there is right there.
There's a lot of fish in there.
Oh, really? Shh. Can't give that stuff up.
Any questions from the board? Good for.
Yeah, do we have any concern? I mean, I don't know that pond. I've never been back there. I mean, I guess it's anybody could wander back there at any time. It's in the middle of the park. So
Right, it's zero entry. The question that we have is, do we need a lifeguard or anything for that? They're not even going to wade in there to fish. So we'll be trying.
And one of the parents, his parent is going to be there. day, I think.
I don't know how many supervisors there's going to be. Obviously, the person who is in charge of lead will be there. Other than that, I don't know how many more adults will be there.
Yeah, it says she plans on being there. That gave me a little bit of pause, but
On
Maybe-
the application itself, Chris.
maybe for her, that means I'll be there. I don't know, but
Sure.
Just so everyone knows too, Martha has in her office the insurance certificate that came in late, but we do have it, so. Any other questions on that? We put it on the agenda? Good. No, good. Okay. All right, next we have the code update. And I guess I would refer to Luke and Chuck to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we just wanted to have one more opportunity. I know I've spoken to most of you individually about the code update. And it's a lot to go through. I think Chuck and I can speak on the part with the changes to the C zones. And then Liz is the main contact for the other changes throughout the document. We should set a public hearing and move forward with it because our moratorium is ending and time to get back to business. The two main changes that we've discussed, we've taken out the B and I zones, replaced them with the C general section, which covers all C zones, and then a C1, C2, C3, which are replacing roughly the B1, B2, and I zones. The point of this was to take a look back and see where there have been some things that we wanted to shore up, but also to make some of the rules a little bit more loose when it maybe was a little bit too strict. So within each C district, there is a permitted two sections of uses that are permitted. The first is one that does not require a special use permit, and then the lower section is one that does. And if we want to go forward with a work session or discussion to talk about where we want to put those and move them around, we can do that. But the committee was, I think, in full agreement when we were going through that, you know, what is in the document now is a pretty good balance between requiring permits when it's necessary and not requiring them when it's not. So.
Yeah, so we came up with a nice introduction as just kind of an overview of what the C zones and that specific Z zone was intended to cover. We did move around the square footage a little bit, and but as Luke says, I really think it's much more defined and clear all the way through. So I think it.
And then the next two things that we also did is we referred to design standards, which are a guideline that are available to anyone who wants to be working in a C zone about what it is that the town is looking for. It's an important document. It's not a mandatory document, but it does give us a little bit of, gives the potential developers, landowners, builders, direction as to what we're looking for when they do come forward to ask for a special use permit. And it also gives us grounds to yay or nay based on whatever parameters. So that's an important document that is not within the code, so it can be amended more easily. And then the last is recognizing that West Falls is a unique area within the town and creating an overlay that applies only to West Falls and the districts there, with a few more elements that would not apply to the whole town, but which do clearly apply to the West Falls hamlet. And the only comment I think that I've received was from Joe, no, actually it wasn't from Joe, from the community so far, was that and I don't know if I want to out him, but from Connor is extending the West Falls overlay up north so that it goes up to Old Glenwood Road, and we had talked about going back and forth on that. So we can look at that, but other than that, I haven't heard anything from any of the committees or anyone else other than that one point.
Okay. All right.
A couple other points in the chapter 116. The superintendent of buildings title has changed to code enforcement officer to reflect the current titling of our office. the planning board had requested and recommended a change from a 9-foot overhead door in the residential districts to a 10-foot door. So that change was made. And then we added information in there that was in another section of the code about driveway culverts and requiring a permit for that before they get installed, because many times, or we've run into instances where culverts go in and they're not correct. So it's in there, and it's stated that town highways, the highway superintendent has to approve culverts. And then Erie County Highway approves the others prior to construction. So those are some of the other changes that were made throughout chapter 116.
Are we in a position to set a public hearing on this, guys, or?
They're not all in local law format yet.
Okay, so what's the timeline, Martha, that we have
We have
left?
till June 23rd.
June 23rd? So now we'd have Bridget put it in the local law?
Format.
Okay, so falls in your court. So we can finally get through this. How long has it been? A year? But any other comments on it?
The sooner they're in local law format, the sooner I can get it out, because for seeker, we have to send it out to the abutting other towns and concerned agencies. And we need 30 days for that. So the sooner we can get it in that format, the sooner I can get it to the county and get it out.
Okay, I'll follow up with you, Martha.
Be nice to get that off our plate.
I have to say, I read it today. It reads very well. It was very clear. So I don't know. It was all jumbled before, but I was able to understand. I'm not a builder, so it was good.
I gotta thank Luke and Chuck and Liz and everyone that's involved with it, because I was on that committee years ago. We spent 5 years, I think, on that committee, and code is not fun. Yeah, it's very, very dry, but it's something that has to be done.
And Martha and Doug Crow and Tim Stroth too.
Yeah.
That was pretty much the gang that did all this.
Yeah.
And don't worry, we have our next project, so stay tuned.
We have just a couple minutes before our auditor is here to give a presentation. I was going to ask the board if they have anything else they want to discuss in the work session or bring to the table, as long as we have a few minutes.
I guess rather than business from the board, I met with the contractors. I met with 6 contractors over at the pool last Wednesday. That was in regards to replacing the pool water heater and the chemical room door. We did the walkthrough. That went fine. Bids are due, I think the 23rd of this month, I believe. But now we'll see where they fall. I got to say, I really have no clue what that boiler, what that hot water heater is going to be. But
It's
we
pretty
shall
old.
see.
Is there anything being done to address the roof?
The roofs are in the works. I'm trying to get a hold of an independent contractor. We certainly need to take a good look at them, because there's one that leaks.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say.
They look
that-
pretty rough.
Yeah, I'm going to say that while we're doing it, we may as well do them all. Because when one leaks, the other ones, they're all about the same year, the same age. So, but that's on its way, Jim. I don't have that.
And when we look at the restroom, the outside new restroom, there's probably going to be a lot of broken concrete, and I know that the driveway going up to the pool is in pretty bad shape. We probably should look at that also.
Wasn't that part of our agreement with Lancaster? Is that right, Dave? They're going to pave that for us?
Yes.
Yep.
Got by the blacktop, so.
They're not going to bring the blacktop? Ugh.
There's always a catch, isn't there? No, I mean, obviously, if you start digging a foundation, you're going to mess everything up anyway. So, yeah. Good. All right. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. I see Carl's here. Hey, Carl. Do you want to, yeah, we're ready. We're just finished. Good timing. You can use that mic if you want.
Okay.
And then Luke, you're going to do the PowerPoint.
Yeah, I don't think we got a clicker for you, so you can just nod, or I'll try to stay ahead of you.
Some oral cues.
And just try to, you might want to take the microphone out and speak in it. It's a lot clearer on the recording.
Would it be better if you have a table, or can you do it like that?
That's fine. I'll be all right. I'll be all right. Yeah, thank you.
Maybe a glass of water.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Carl Widmer, partner at Drescher Malecki. And with me tonight is Megan Winneck. She is a manager from Drescher Malecki. We serve as the town's external auditors, and here tonight to present on the results of our audit for the town's fiscal year ended December 31st, 2021. Just a quick aside, why is an audit important? Why are we even hired? Just to introduce the fact, when people hear auditors, oftentimes they associate it with fraud or searching for fraud. That is not what our audits are designed for. Our audits are designed to look at the town's financial statements and determine whether or not we think they can be relied upon as being accurate or fairly stated. And why that's important is because the readers of your financial statements, whether it be resident taxpayers, banks, ratings agencies, granting agencies, they're looking for that third-party verification that the numbers that the town presents in their financial statements can be relied upon. That's where Drescher Malecki comes into play. So within the financial statements, you'll note there are a couple pages that are on our letterhead, and that serves as what's called our opinion. And ultimately, we'll give an opinion on whether or not we think they can be relied upon. In all past years, we've been able to give a clean or unmodified opinion. That is where we stand in draft form today, moving forward. So we'll be issuing probably in the next couple of weeks, some final items to wrap up. But ultimately, I think the drafts that we have in place today will be in a position to circulate to the full board by the end of this week. Tonight, the presentation, it's similar to past years. We take a 350, 400-hour audit process and 80-page financial statement document and try to compress it into a 15-minute give or take presentation. So that's what we're doing tonight. If we move on to the next slide, the first section that we take a look at are the products of our audit. Of course, the financial statements, I spoke on those. Ultimately, what you're looking at is information from all of the town's funds presented at December 31st, 2021, and also the 12 months of activity, your revenues and your expenditures for the 12 months thereof. The basic financial statements, in addition to the basic financial statements, the town submits their report to the GFOA. That's the Government Finance Officers Association. This is by choice, town's election, but ultimately they take that report, which we help compile, and include some additional information, and that's intended to represent a little bit more transparency and some more trend information in what's called the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. ACFR is what they're calling it now. The GFOA receives this report. It is comprised of a panelist of different partners from throughout the country. I actually serve on that board, and it's a volunteer position. We review those reports and compare it to a grading scale, essentially, and say, does this meet the requirements to merit an award of excellence in financial reporting? So the town has been successful in receiving that award for the past several years. I forget what year started submitting for it, but this year we'll also include that report in a submission to the GFOA. There's also a separate cash basis financial statement for the departments of the town. That's going to include the town clerk, receiver of taxes, justice, and recreation department. They have a standalone financial statement. An AUD compilation, this is the annual update document, and the state controller requires all state municipalities to submit their financial statements in a format that the comptroller wants to see. So there's a separate software that we utilize, and we take the information from the town, format it the way that the comptroller would like to see it, and submit it by the April 1st due date, which they want it by. We did complete that and submit it successfully by the deadline. Also, a management letter, an auditor's communication letter. You'll see drafts of those as well. Ultimately, it's a forum for us to provide any recommendations that we may have over internal controls. And also in the auditor communications, basically reiterates what was the town's responsibility throughout the course of the audit as far as willingness to cooperate, what records must be made available, not to interfere with our reviewing records, and then also our responsibilities. And that's ultimately to perform an audit in accordance with the standards that we agreed on. The next slide is really just getting into financial statement, a little break here. If anybody had a question on the audit process, we're going to get into some numbers at this point, but if anybody had any questions on the process itself, we could take them. All right. So moving on, for each major fund that we look at tonight, there's 4 funds. We're going to present 2 slides. The first is a 5-year trend of revenues and expenditures, and it will be followed up by a 5-year trend of fund balance levels. So for the Water Districts Fund, here you can see a decrease in both revenues and expenditures compared to the prior year. Excuse me. The Water Fund is designed at this point, since water assets have been turned over to the County Water Authority, to ultimately raise enough funds to pay off the debt service payments that are associated with those past assets. So this fund is operating as it's designed. During the year, expenditures outweighed revenues by about $96,000. So that's a decrease in fund balance of $96,000. And on the next slide, you'll see how that impacts fund balance. So here's a bar graph of total fund balance for each of the last 5 years. You'll recognize 2021 is down just a little bit. That's that decrease of $96,000 for 2021 activity. The total fund balance is further broken down on this slide based on the classification that it carries in the financial statements. And that classification is going to associate with how available or how liquid are these funds. You'll see a red portion there is called restricted. Those monies are set aside for specific purposes. In this case, debt, and also represents a little bit of overpayments from customers that will be returned. But the blue portion on the bottom is just your assigned available. And for sake of the subsequent slides, I'll explain this is the fund balance classification that most readers of your financial statements would be interested in looking at. If you're going to evaluate financial health of a given fund, you take a look at the available fund balance and you compare that to the next year's adopted budget. And you say, essentially, if I stopped right now, how much of next year could we get through on the available fund balance? So that's a common benchmark that readers of governmental financial statements will use to evaluate financial health. The $926,000 at the end of 2021 represents 73% of the 22 budget. That's certainly a healthy balance. It's going to chip away because that's the way the Water Districts Fund is designed as we pay off the existing debt. The next fund that we'll look at is the Highway Fund. Both revenues and expenditures went up from prior year. Revenues, the main contributors to the increase from last year were both sales tax, which outperformed budget. That was across the board. We saw that. Town of Aurora is not alone in that. Sales tax was certainly favorable, not something that would have been easy to anticipate in fall of 2020 when this budget was being adopted. In addition to sales tax, there was a DEC recycling grant, sort of a one-time deal that came through during the year. Expenditures went up a little bit from last year. There was decreased activity during 2020, a little bit of hold off, not as much equipment was purchased, where 2021 got back into a little bit normal spending. Ultimately, revenues came in above expenditures by $270,000. And on the next slide, we'll take a look at how that impacted total fund balance. And you'll see that it grew. Total fund balance is now at $980,000. Last year was at $710,000. If we focus in on the available fund balance, that dark blue portion, $685,000 represents about 36% of next year's budget, or 2022 budget. Of course, lower than water districts, but this fund operates a little bit differently than the water districts fund. So evaluating health, this is consistent with past years. I'd say we haven't seen any drastic dips in this fund either. So that should also weigh into the judgment of the financial health of a fund, is how volatile are the operations year to year. Second to last is the B fund, or the general fund part town outside village. What you see here is the revenue line has consistently been above expenditures. And what that means is there's been a positive trend where fund balance has grown because revenues have returned higher than expenditures in the 5 years shown here. Most recently in 2021, that gap was nearly $350,000. That increase, and where you see the large increase in the revenue line, your blue line from last year, is almost wholly attributed to sales tax performance. So the budget wasn't anticipating such a performance out of sales tax. It did experience it, and in return, fund balance grew. On the next slide, you'll see that $350,000 increase to total fund balance. And you'll notice 2021 looks much different than past years presented. And speaking with management during this year's audit, we noticed that it was the town's intention to really acknowledge the commitment that the town has for providing policing services to its residents. That's the primary activity that occurs in your B fund, this fund. The town, of course, provides these services through a contract with the village. And annually, that contract is just over $1.6 million. This assignment of fund balance is intended to show the town's commitment to fund that contract going forward. There's a unique timing issue with that contract, whereas you end a fiscal year and are still liable to pay the village for policing services that you've received as of year end, but haven't yet paid for and won't pay for several months down the road. So we thought going forward, it's easier and more transparent to show that this money is set aside for that policing contract. So once you do that, the available portion, of course, has shrunk from last year significantly, now to $374,000. That represents 21% of next year's budget. Finally, the general fund. All the activities in the town that don't get recorded in a specific special revenue fund for their operations, it all falls to the general fund. Total activity, expenditures just outweighed revenues during 2021 by $48,000. So that's how much fund balance decreased as a result of 2021. The big ups and downs, overall, there was a decrease in spending, and that's most significantly noticed from last year with interfund transfers out. In 2020, the general fund sent over $600,000 to the capital projects fund to pay for the senior center, town hall building improvements, that project, and also an early payment on bond anticipation notes. In 2021, what you'll see is the spending, while overall decreased, debt service payments in the general fund increased because the debt that was taken out to fund this capital project is now starting to be paid in the annual principal payments. So that came out during 2021. On the revenue side, mortgage tax went up a little bit. and also departmental income from recreation programs starting to run, whereas 2020 didn't have as much activity. The next slide, overall fund balance. In the general fund, your available fund balance is referred to as unassigned, just a governmental accounting term. That is up over $2.3 million as of December 31st, 2021. That's an increase from the prior year. That represents 70% of the next year's budget, whereas in previous years have been closer to about 50%. The main change is that in the category above it, assigned and committed, when the town closed on the sale of Glebe, there were proceeds that ended up being a net profit, if you will, that were set aside to pay debt service payments. Those amounts over the past couple of years had been exhausted, and that's why that portion has decreased from prior years, and the blue portion has now been able to account for the vacancy of the committed fund balance. So total unassigned, $2.3 million, 70% of next year's budget. Certainly, if you're comparing to other Erie County towns, 70% is a healthy position to be in operating general fund. Wrapping up, overall observations. In addition to looking at the numbers, we also spend quite a bit of time in the supervisor's office, and in particular, those staff and personnel that are handling the journal entries, the payroll, cutting checks, receiving payments that go into these financial statements. And we refer to the way that those dollars are handled as internal controls. We review internal controls at the town each year, and they need to be at a certain standard. Otherwise, we would need to report them to the board and in your financial statements through a reportable finding. There are no reportable findings as a result of our 2021 audit. So a compliment there to the way that dollars are being handled. Internal controls are strong. In addition, I mentioned you submit your financial statements to the GFOA for that award in financial excellence. Each year, that review comes back and actually receives specific recommendation comments on how that report can be improved for your next year's submission. This was the first year that the town didn't receive any recommendations for improvement on the report. So it makes it easier on us this year, but also it's really saying that December 31st, 2020 was a really nice looking report, put together well, and should serve as a great basis for this year's submission. Overall, 2021 financially, I think you saw there in a quick snapshot, of course, was favorable. It's nice to see it have a windfall when you're not sure how 2021 is going to happen at budget time. It did end up in a healthy position, increasing fund balances. So overall, in a stable financial condition. Mentioned before, status. We are in probably final draft form by the end of this week, and a couple really minor items to wrap up over the next week or two with the supervisor and his staff, and we should be ready to go. Anything you think I missed? All right. Any questions tonight?
I have one for you.
Sure.
As we went along, you compared us to other municipalities, mostly positively. Our 70% fund balance in our general fund, is that I'm assuming that is related to the increase in sales tax, or is that more, you said that was more tied to mortgage tax, is that correct?
The general fund increase in 2021, I would say, was most affected by not needing to spend much towards capital projects this year.
So that 70%, is that typical of what you see of other municipalities?
70% is on the upper tier compared to other Erie County towns.
Gotcha.
What would the range be for healthy? Obviously 70 is up there, or does it depend on the municipality?
It definitely depends on the municipality. We aren't really in the right position to say what is healthy. We could say trending, what we've seen at other towns. So this is upper tier. I would say, though, the GFOA, that same group who evaluates the financial statements, a few years ago, they provided what they believe to be a bare minimum in that category. Where you have 70%, they recommended no less than 2 months of operations, which was 16.6667%, bare minimum. And then the town board needs to evaluate what specific risks are unique to our town, and do we feel comfortable having funds on hand to handle. So that's going to be countrywide, that 16.7% recommendation. You know, here we have weather threats. That could be a big chunk of money that needs to be called on quickly. There are several risk factors that weigh into what percentage a town's board may be comfortable having on hand.
A question. So with the sales tax coming in so much higher this year than was expected, kind of looking forward, is there any forecast as to how the sales tax is going to continue to operate this year, next year, and in the future?
So far, 2022 has also been high, favorable. As far as forecasting, we don't look forward. We could say that the trends have been that they're maintaining so far. I would say what's going on with gas prices. Gas is a big driver of sales tax. We've seen the options to forfeit or give discounts on the sales tax being collected at the county and state level on fuel. I would believe that's going to impact sales tax payments coming into local municipalities in future quarters.
In a negative way, yeah.
Correct.
For the municipality, yeah.
Just as a result of fuel, you know, everything else, online sales have been a big contributor to the increase. So
has the New York State Economic Nexus changed at all in the last, or is it expected to change?
I couldn't say.
Yeah.
With inflation and possible recession coming, this would be a good thing in preparation, having a good fund balance, having a good healthy. Because I guess my question is, how is that going to affect a recession? How is that going to affect us in a budget?
Should there be a recession or continued actual inflation, your budget process is going to become more difficult because your revenue sources are not going to follow those same increases proportionate or corresponding to all the costs that essentially the town is committed to paying to provide the services that you've agreed on to provide residents. If those costs continue to rise and revenues are not, you're going to have to balance that budget one way or another, whether that be increase in property tax levies to even it out, or dipping into some of that fund balance. So if you have a few rocky years, you do have the option, and the town has exercised it in the budget process to, for instance, total budget is $2.5 million of spending. You only expect $2.3 million of revenues, including property taxes. You could say we're going to dip into fund balance to cover that last $200,000. So that would be one of the options that I'm certain would come into the equation if that kept going.
I have one last question.
Sure.
Is that, did you wait especially for Sue Fries to leave the board before you put that red part in there? And if Sue is listening online, she should open up some champagne tonight, because she would be very happy to see
I can
that.
tell you, Luke, Sue was always one to bring that up to the
I know,
board,
that's
that
why I'm
we're-
saying,
that
yeah, Sue is,
over a year behind in paying for the police services.
Sue is
She
gonna
always
be-
brought that up, that it was a misleading number
Yep.
when that was in the blue.
yep, that's right. So
Yeah.
Sue, if you're listening, that's that one's for you, I guess.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Is good. No,
I'm good.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch shortly with distributing the documents.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I did want to say to the rest of the board, though, that I got to say that as board member for 8 years, that we are in a much different spot than we were when I started, and Jim's 4 years before that, much different spot. And it's just been wonderful to work with Jim and the previous board, but we always took into consideration what was best for all of the residents when we came to budget time. It's good to see these numbers. It really is. So.
Yeah, and this is my first year on the board, so I do appreciate you looking at me when you were complimenting the town on the wonderful things they've done. You look to my right and to my left, and I appreciate what you guys have done, and that was kind of you, and I thank you. Appreciate that.
No problem.
Well, I'm sure we'll continue to do it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
And a special thanks to our staff, Kathleen and Elizabeth and Marissa, and for helping out. Yeah, helping out. So.
She's going out to Pam right now.
I heard you say
That has zero reaction to the chief of police right there. Yeah.
Any other comments or good? All right, let's move on to the approval of the minutes. So I have a motion to approve April 25th, 2022 work session and meeting minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Chuck. Do I have a second?
Second that.
Second by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that is carried. And next we have audience. It's an opportunity to address the board on any items that are on the agenda. If you wish to do so, please come up to the mic and give us your name and address. If it's up to you. You can,
You're next on the agenda.
yeah, if you want to wait. Yeah. All right, Connor, did you want to come up? I didn't hear him.
You can comment.
Does he, yeah, if it's on the agenda, but if it's on the work session, you can speak now, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, you can come up.
It's a fantastic t-shirt you've got there.
I had my last final today. This is my good luck shirt. So,
Well, congratulations.
Connor Schneider, 249 Glen Road. As Luke hinted at, I just had a comment on the West Falls Hamlet overlay. I think it's a great idea. But my only comment would be to consider extending it north to include the West Falls train depot at 397 Oklahoma Road, and which would be parallel to Davis Road there where the old gas station used to be at the southern end of Oklahoma Road. I know the overlay here says that it's going to have the same underlining zoning of the district, which I believe is R1 there. But I think it's important to consider the potential future uses for the building, especially, considering the depot. I just think while you're looking at it now might be worthwhile to consider, especially looking at the objectives of the overlay here. So that's all I have to say.
I think, is that the last business along there? Is there something across the street from the depot? What is that? Is that a residence or?
It's a residence, but it used to be a gas station.
Like on Davis? Is that across Davis, right?
Of Old Glen Road.
Okay.
It hasn't been a business in quite some time, but.
And then the next business is what?
It's
In Cahoots, whatever.
No, so heading north, the next building up, that would be the gun shop.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the old gas station. I'm not sure if it's, but it's not an active, like not a store you walk into or anything, but
So really quickly, and maybe this is more for the board, but I do appreciate that. I think that might be a good idea to expand it north. But if it wasn't for some reason, what would the steps be to expand it either north or expand it to another part of the community that perhaps has enough of a group that they wish they have an overlay, zoning overlay as well?
I
appreciate you've done it over the 2 years and we don't want to change it, but I'm just.
No, we did talk about expanding it, extending it, and
if it's not done now, how is it done?
Yeah,
I don't know. I think we'll just have to sit down and go through what properties and what businesses and so on that it affects, and if we feel that it's the right thing to do to extend it, I think we'll propose it.
It'd have to be added to the local law.
Yeah.
So public hearing and all that.
Yeah.
Well, if it's not done immediately. Okay.
I think with the overlay, the rules are stronger, right? If we have a better basis to provide the overlay, and West Falls does have a West Falls feel. And so when the committee was meeting, we thought maybe some things would be good outside of West Falls. We tried to put those into the code into the specific zoning section or in the design guidelines. But there is something specific about West Falls where are some regulations that are appropriate that are not appropriate in other parts of the town. So if there is another area of the town where that situation exists, then we could add another overlay. But we didn't talk about it too much, but we didn't really see that there was.
Well, we
another part
discussed
of
it briefly on Olean
Yeah.
Road there. We kind of just felt that the hamlet of West Falls would be the best spot for that. And that's,
And the area you're talking about is really Jewettville, right?
No, where the depot is,
That's
the lines are kind of fuzzy where you draw the boundary, but
Of the hamlets.
yeah, where the hamlets begin and end. But I mean, that was the depot, West Falls, for the hamlet of West Falls. Jewettville actually had its own depot.
But that wasn't its original location. I don't believe that depot.
It was, yeah,
Was
it's the same parcel. It just moved maybe 50 feet
Okay.
further to the south, but there was a separate depot near where Tombstone and Cahoots used to be, within a mile of one another. On either end of Glenwood Road, there was 2 train stations. But I just think considering the future Erie Cattaraugus Rail Trail, you have this building that's right along the trail, and it's currently zoned residential. I don't foresee anybody ever wanting to live right. I mean, maybe somebody would, but I just think just considering the future potential uses, it might be good to incorporate it now while you're taking a look at it. So
just to be clear, Connor, how far north are you suggesting?
just to the southern end of Old Glenwood Road. So I know this says it ends at
Okay.
Fame Road. So this is maybe what, a tenth of a mile, if that.
Okay. I thought you meant to the other end.
No,
That's what-
that
that's what I
just
was
right at
sense.
the end of Old Glenwood Road.
The
The southern tip of Old Glenwood Road, yeah.
That would be easy enough to add, wouldn't it?
I
That would be easy enough to add, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we actually had that in there in the original draft and then moved it down for some reason. So.
All right. Good idea.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Connor. Anybody else? If not, then we'll move to unfinished business. And we have the site plan, set the public hearing for 976 Davis Road. And you said you wanted to speak on this?
Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah, got to go to the mic.
I'm short. Hold on. I was just curious if Liz got our email with the parking lot information.
I forwarded it to the board.
Okay. All right. Did it have everything that it needed?
Yeah, I think it's.
Okay. And then I just wanted to ask the board if you got my email that I sent Saturday evening or Sunday morning. I can't remember which day that I sent it.
Yes, we did.
Okay, that's all my comments for right now.
You can sit on the chair I think it snaps in. It doesn't slide in, it snaps in.
So I think informally, we discussed the public hearing. I think the majority of the board believes that it's prudent that we do have a public hearing to be transparent with any kind of development like that, and make sure that everyone could be affected or lives near it has the opportunity to speak.
Yeah.
And I would ask if you guys have anything to add to that, or.
Yeah, I don't see it as a negative feeling on your property. It's going to change the traffic pattern. So you don't want to give neighbors, you want to give neighbors an opportunity to be heard if they have if they have input, basically. But go on.
I agree that it's important to have neighbors have input, but there is a very tight timeline for us, and my funding for the project can't happen until the site plan is secured. That was one of the contingencies of our funding plan. So I can't finish and purchase the property until we have the site plan approved. My contractor isn't free forever. So unfortunately, by having a site plan public hearing, it does delay everything substantially. And if it were to take 2 or 4 more weeks to get that approval, that I might be in a position where we're going to lose out on like $500,000 and not be able to move into the school until the following school year. So it's just a concern that I have. I wonder if perhaps we can have the site plan approved the way it is and then hold the public hearing so that I can make sure that we secure that funding so that we can purchase the building, and then we can make adjustments to the site plan thereafter.
Yeah, we can't, unfortunately, we can't do that, but if we set a public hearing tonight for 2 weeks from now and vote on it that night, we were talking 2 weeks. What's that?
I'm pointing to Bridget. You want to?
No.
Okay, go for it. A site plan has to be sent to the Erie County Department of Planning for refer to them according to law. And from the day of the referral, there's 30 days for them to respond. If they respond earlier than that, you can vote. If they respond later than that, you can vote at 30 days.
So what you're saying is
You can't vote tonight.
there'd be 30 days from,
Right. It was sent on May 5th, accepted by them on May 5th.
Oh.
So there's 30 days from May 5th. They've been getting it to me a lot faster than that. So I would think it would be ready by the next.
so worst case scenario would be 30 days.
Yeah,
And we couldn't approve it today under any circumstances.
correct.
But we could set it for a public hearing in 2 weeks, and if everything.
Correct.
If the county got back and maybe, and approved it, if, I don't know who's in charge of that down there to talk to, but, we can get it by in 2 weeks. We could vote on it then.
Yeah.
If for some reason during the public hearing, somebody wants me to make a change to the site plan, is it possible that we vote to get it approved pending those changes so that we're not delayed even more?
Contingent,
Depending on what
yeah,
it is, I would say.
if it was contingent on you doing what you say you're gonna do, and I don't see a problem with that.
No, I don't even.
Is there a problem with the county though, to modify it?
If it's a slight modification, no. If it's a major modification, yes.
We're doing very little work like outside, so I don't see a major modification happening because we're not even majorly modifying anything, so.
So as far as us, it'd only be 2 weeks. I guess we're at the mercy of the county.
Okay,
Make sure that they, because we'd like to see it go forward too, but we do have a procedure that we have to follow.
okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
You reached out to the neighbors, yeah? If
Yeah, I sent them a letter through the mail on April 20th, and I sent them another letter on what was last Thursday, the 5th. So I sent them 2 letters. They're almost identical, but I added my personal contact information on the last one.
Yeah,
that I
asking
did
them to
before.
reach out to you, and has
Yes.
anyone reached out to you about this?
Yeah, so I have had 2 people reach out to me. One of them actually asked for a job. And the other one asked for an application to send their grandchild there. But I haven't heard anything negative, but I do know sometimes people don't, come out and say it right away and they have to think about it a little bit. But I also added the chart that I had on the end of the site plan talking about any concerns that they might have. And I think that might also assist because I am thinking about my neighbors already. So.
And then to Martha or Bridget, what department with the county did it have to go to for them to look at for up to 30 days?
Goes to the Erie County Department of Planning.
the other thing I would say is if you do have any comments that they want to reach out to make it more expedient on our end, just send that to the townboard@townaurora.com email.
Okay.
And then we'll deal with whatever comes if it does. Not saying it will, but the earlier we get it, then the higher chances are that even if there is someone who's upset, that we'll be able to take care of it by the next meeting.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
So, and we would just need a motion to go ahead and set the public hearing for May 23rd, 2022 at 7 PM. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Joe and second by Luke.
Oh, boy, we moved around again on you, didn't we? Sorry.
All 3 of you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and that's carried. And next we have the transfer surplus of inventory, Lancaster Paving Services in exchange for a 1980 snow blower. Town of Lancaster Highway Department is offering paving services to help the town of Aurora pave their community pool in exchange for a 1980 snow blower attachment. Do we have to vote on it, Martha, or is that just, we do, okay. So need a motion to accept this offer.
So did we surplus this already?
Yeah, we did last.
So we surplus and we
did.
if we
Talked
surplus,
about
are we
this.
allowed to still give it away?
What was that?
Now we're going to dispose of it, yeah? Okay. Gotcha.
Do I have a motion by Jim? Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Joe. Any discussion? I think we're getting a deal here.
I do too.
Good going. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that is carried.
I did want to add I told my son about this deal, just getting him involved in politics. And he said, just make sure they don't write like Lancaster rules in blacktop or something. That was his legitimate concern.
All right, new business. We have 5A, which is the Rural Outreach Center Community Pool Rental for $200. We also have a contract for that. So we talked about this at the work session. Do I have a motion to authorize the supervisor to enter in a contract with Rural Outreach Center to use the pool for a total cost of $200?
So make that motion.
Motion by Chuck.
Or second, whatever.
I did have another question.
Well, you can do it during our question break.
But I thought I heard a second over there.
Yeah. Then we do a question.
Okay. Who made the motion? I thought Chuck did.
I made the motion. Luke
Motion and
seconded.
Luke seconded. Okay,
Yes.
now discussion.
I saw the a whole harmless and indemnification in here. Is there a need for additional insurance or is it in there?
So it's a school
Martha
program,
has the-
we already have schools to get on file.
Okay, so there's no need for additional insurance. That was my question. I didn't,
Martha has it.
oh, you do? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mentioned, you didn't hear before I mentioned it, we didn't have time to get it out to everyone, but you got it late today. So,
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that is carried. Next, we have the temporary use permit for 42 North for the use of Knox parking lot. We have a motion to approve that application. Motion by Luke. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jim. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that is carried. 5C, temporary use permit for the East Aurora Leap program for the pond and fishing. I have a motion to approve that application.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Chuck. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Joe. Any discussion?
I have the same concern that Jim raised on the previous. I see the indemnification. Do we require an insurance certificate for this?
We have school insurance on file.
That's what you were talking about,
Yep.
Chris. Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that is carried. Next, we have D, which is a budget amendment. Request from Kathleen Moffett. In regards to the ARPA funds. She's requesting approval to amend the budget to increase the appropriation line related to park improvements. ARPA, the source of the funding is fund balance. The amendment is follows: increase appropriation line A7110.454. Park improvements, ARPA by 30,000 and decrease A599 appropriated fund balance by $30,000. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Chuck. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Joe. Any discussion?
Just want to make sure we have a certificate of insurance and
It's going
Hey, we have a blanket. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that is carried. Next is another request from Kathleen Moffett. It's a budget amendment for CHIPS funding. Department respectfully requests approval to amend the budget to record the 2022 CHIPS funding increase, which is something good. The amendment as follows: increase revenue line DB 3501 state aid CHIPS by $15,103. And increase appropriation line DB 5112.433. Permanent improvements, materials and supplies by $15,103. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion by Jim. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Chuck. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and that is carried. Next, we have a donation to the rec department for Independence Day music. And this is a donation from Dodge Enterprises for $100 to go in a revenue line A00-2080-0001. And it's to be spent on music for the July 3rd celebration. Do I have a motion to accept that?
So moved.
Motion by Luke. Do I have a second?
Nice job, Luke.
Second by Joe.
Well, it was first by
Oh.
me, but
Sorry. So you, I can't, raise your hand or something.
I didn't say anything, but I'll second now that we've got that.
Okay. Motion by Joe, second by Luke. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and that is carried. We're a little giddy tonight, aren't we?
yeah, everybody's a little punchy.
Okay, G, recreation request to hire lifeguards. This is a request from Chris to hire lifeguard as listed. They'll start the summer season on July 4th, and the rate will be based on the board approved 2022 rate chart attached. The 2022 minimum wage increased from $12.50 to $13.20 per hour. Do I have a motion to increase or to approve the hiring as listed?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Chuck. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jim. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and that's carried. And this is another request from Megan Tent from the Parks and Recreation to hire summer recreation staff as listed. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved by Joe.
Motion by Luke and second by Joe. You guys are just doing that on purpose, aren't you? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? They're happy tonight.
Yeah, sun shining. No kidding.
Communication and reports. We have the town clerk, building department, dog control, work requisition, and supervisors April 2022 report. Business from board members. I'm going to start with Joe tonight because he's got his bag of dirt.
I do. I have show and tell to the big audience we have here tonight. Supervisor Bach, myself, and Highway Superintendent Dave Gunner all went out to the NOCO demonstration of their composting. They do it in the Old First Ward, and it was fantastic. They have a great system there. It was. I didn't think it stunk personally, but I think they primarily do, grasses and wood chips and things like that. And they turn it into this great compost. So one of the stories they told, which I thought was most interesting, is the Erie County Botanical Gardens is very particular about their compost, and they had been importing it from Vermont. So this environmentally friendly product was being driven 500 miles to its end destination. Now they get it from the Old First Ward 3 or 4 miles away. So it's already making a difference. They predict somewhere down the line, probably within 5 years, all restaurant food waste will have to be composted by law, because once it goes to a landfill, it just gets covered up and stays there forever. And for that, they actually use some sort of larvae that turns into a beetle and consumes the food waste. And then before the larvae turns into a flying beetle, they ixnay it and they feed that to fish for aqua farming. So it's a great little system. And at some point, we're going to have to figure it out. It's coming. So it was highly informative and very cool. And they even gave us what we were hoping was chocolate covered coffee beans or something, but it's a little bag of compost. So everybody's welcome to it if you want my bag of compost. That's the kind of guy I am. That's all I got.
They did say that towns and villages are going to have to start looking at either partnering up or doing it ourselves. So it's something down the road we'll have to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was good. It was good to see. They said that space we were on, which was pretty big, would cover the city of Buffalo. So a town like ours, you would think wouldn't be insanely large, but it would be enough that you'd have to plan.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to put it right next to somebody's house. So
Thanks. Chuck?
I have nothing tonight.
Jim? Luke? Nothing?
No. Jim?
Nothing for me. Joe stole my thunder. Okay.
You knew that was going to happen when Democrats were elected, that dirt would be brought here.
You'll be starting to throw it tonight, I'm sure.
Hey, it's high quality compost. Don't insult my mudslinging.
Oh, boy. Okay, next is
I've
audience.
been here for 2 years.
Opportunity
and
for
there's
anybody
never been
in the
any-
audience to come up and talk to us about anything. Oh, come on, Rod will come up. Come on up, Rod.
Brad is the new Tony, isn't he?
He is.
Where's Tony related?
Okay, time's up.
Representing the entire public at the meeting. Just a point of clarification, with my failing hearing and the microphone, what was the date of the public hearing for the code update? I didn't catch.
For the
that.
what?
Code update.
Hasn't been set.
We didn't set a date.
We didn't set one yet.
Oh,
We have to put it in legal format before we can do that.
okay.
As Soon as that gets done, then we're gonna probably set it at the next meeting, I would think, right?
Hopefully.
Hopefully,
Kind of,
depends on Bridget.
right, Bridget?
I just finished it. I'm sending it to Martha now. Well,
Okay.
in draft format.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
You can
No.
tell it's a sunny day. Huh?
All right, staff reports, Liz.
No, she said nobody.
So the annual New York State report for the activities of my office has been completed. It is available in the clerk's office as required. It will be posted online as well. You will have that for your next meeting for discussion. But basically what it does is it outlines all of the work that we've done for the separate storm sewers, activities such as looking at some of our outfalls throughout the town with our storm sewers to see if they're running. And if they are, we have to test them to determine if there's any illegal discharges in there. You only have to test a certain percentage every year. So last year I had to do 4. And one was running, but it was probably public water, so not an illegal discharge. But so that report is ready for review. And if you have any questions, please give me a call.
Thank you. Jane? Okay. Rod, do you have anything?
No.
Connor?
No.
So just a couple things, West Falls related. West Falls Fire Company, the Aurora Cold and Fire District, we're having our ambulance dedication this Saturday, 10 a.m. So please all come if you can. And I spoke with Donna from the library. I was there looking up West Falls history. She's got quite a bit of stuff there. And she was telling me about the floors. I don't know if she's talked to Chuck about that.
She has.
Yeah, that they have the asbestos tile in there. And she said if it came between the floors and the windows, she would rather have the floors. So I don't know if she expressed that too, but I told her I'd let you all know. And I'm not certain, maybe you guys, the town owns the library, correct? Is that a fair assessment?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm currently, in light of the New York State DOT Route 240 project, a few of the buildings, quite a few of them are actually in the state right of way. And it was brought to my attention that if you have buildings that are on the National Historic Register, that it could protect the buildings, in case the state wanted to widen the road, that, you could protect the building, especially like with a dog bar. Their sidewalk that the state right of way goes right through the middle of their bar. So I've been reaching out to a bunch of the individuals that own historic buildings, I would guess you would say, of significance to the hamlets, and asking them if they'd be interested in applying and doing it as a group. I think we'd have a better chance to get some of these buildings listed on the National Register if they applied together. So I thought, what else is an interesting building that I think could be significant and be meet the criteria to be put on the list, and that was the library. But in order to do that, obviously, you need the owner's permission. So that's you guys, apparently. So I just wanted to put that before the board and see what your thoughts were. If that's something the town board would be interested in sponsoring. To tell you a little bit more about which buildings I'm considering. Across from the library is Potter's store. It used to be Potter's store. It's owned by Chaz Vance, and he's interested. I'm working with him. I've reached out to Jill and Rico Rivera. They own the other old general store, which is next to Blueberry Treehouse Farm. They're currently renovating that. And then there's the mill, which Scott Beeler is purchasing. And what else? There's another one. Oh, and the depot with Terry Sprague. I was going to ask him to see if he was interested. So I thought if we brought them all together, applied, it might have a better chance of, and the dog bar. Yeah, I'm talked to Linda Shenny about that. And also Ron Shenny just passed away. So he was a, long time, West Falls resident and lifetime, I think. And, huge loss to the community. But other than that, I know that was a lot, but I just want, a couple of thoughts that I've been having.
So what does it require of the owner when you want to do something to the building? Are there certain regulations, what if you want, like, again, we're putting, I think, new windows into it. Yep. Are you held to a standard?
So you're not. So the nice thing that they've really, way back when there was a lot of tough restrictions, but now as long as you aren't receiving state or federal funding for a grant or whatnot, you're free to do whatever you want with the building. You can change it, alter it, modify it. What it guarantees you, though, is protection from, a state or federal sponsored project. So say they wanted to widen the road, they couldn't say, I don't care about your building, we're putting this in. So that's the added benefit that comes from being listed on the register. Other than that, it's primarily honorary. It's just this, the state, state projects.
Very good.
So
The state respects that.
Yes, they do. It does. Yeah. So that was the primary concern, because with the dog bar, I mean, now we're talking about putting sidewalks in. And I know when we were walking down there, I don't know if one of the representatives made a little comment, oh, that front porch, it's in our, because they have that overhang that's, they have to put a fence up along the front of the dog bar in the winter because the plows would just push the snow right up into them. And that building was one of the first buildings in the hamlet, early 1800s. So definitely don't want to lose that. I think that goes to the whole heart of the West Falls overlays, the character of the hamlet there. So just an idea.
Ronnie was the mayor of West Falls.
Yeah, exactly. So, but awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris.
Pool is going to be opening up at first weekend of June. So I already talked to Dave. We get everything going here in Lake Mesa. Looking forward to that. With this new batch of lifeguards, I think we should be good in terms of staffing now. Still looking for a tennis instructor, if anyone knows.
Last but not least, Dave.
I was real fortunate we got that increase in chips. But unfortunately, the oil is outpacing our increases. So this month alone, the cost of our road work jumped up about $30,000. So we're rushing now to try and get everything in May, because every month the asphalt index updates. And as you can see how gas is even going up, even again, it's starting to go up even higher. So we've had to now cut back on some of our oil and chip plans for this year. We originally wanted to do Old Glenwood and Ellis, but next Monday, we're going to do Willis, Bailey, Cornwall, Reading, Tannery, and Bridge. So unfortunately, we've had to cut back some. Because of the chips increase, it literally matched to the dollar the amount that Underhill has gone up. So in 2 weeks, we're going to try to get that laid too. So Underhill will get done. Again, it's a tough year. Our fuel budget, we're at about 65% after the first quarter. Plowing snow this year with the costs going up. You don't expect fuel to double in the budget. So it's just taking its toll on us. So we're having to adapt to that. So I just want to make sure with all the great budget audit we had there, the highway's really hurting this year. So, but we'll get through it. We just have to cut back a little bit and budget next year, and hopefully things straighten out. So anyway, so that's why you were like, oh, great news with the increase, but thank God we got that, because at least it helped a little bit.
Yeah.
So, okay, but that's it. Rugby went good.
Yeah.
We did our final cleanup today. We finally, because all the rain, we didn't get on it till today. There was no damage to the fields, minor to the parking lots. I did tell Chris they could probably give them back their deposit. They are real excited to hopefully come back. In fact, Lex is going to bring a donation to the board at the next meeting of $500 to thank the town for all the hard work. It did take quite a bit of work. There was a lot of garbage. At one time, there was about 1,000 people there. I was shocked. We fit 500 cars in there in that rain. It was, I guess we've done good over the years getting those parking lots where it can handle that. So it went well.
Getting back to the fields, Dave, the baseball fields, Dave, I noticed that you brought in 64 ton of diamond dirt.
Yes. Yeah. A lot more than I guess we thought. I think we're at about $6,000. Remember,
Yep.
originally got set up to 10,000. And I thought about 5, but it just disappears when you put it down. In fact, they still would like some more. So I don't know.
Is that stuff that we truck in, Dave, or do you have that?
No,
Brought in.
it comes out of West Virginia and it gets hauled to the depot in Springville. Then we pick it up
And then we
there.
pick it up there?
Yeah. So, and I think Train came the other day and he liked diamond dirt, and
We'll have to do something.
you see the price of that too is up to $98 a ton. It used to be about 65. The prices are really hurting us right now.
So that
Is that all you, I'm
Sorry.
sorry, go ahead, Joe.
sorry, that number you're talking, that's just for pool park so far?
That's just to do those 2 diamonds to make them safe, the 2 softball ones.
The Lily?
So that wasn't any other diamonds. It was literally just those 2 where we put the backstops in. So with the benches, we did about a $20,000 investment there. So we've done a lot of improvements. We were real fortunate with this weather to actually get it done.
That was actually my next question. Did you intend to do any other diamond dirt?
Well, they approached me just today and I thought that I was going to talk to Jim. I know Train came for, I guess that's a discussion for another board meeting. I think we talked about, let's just keep going along. Next, we want to hit the pickleball courts in June.
Right.
There's a lot of blacktop costs there. I think we just keep rolling. And like you mentioned, after that bathroom, we're going to have to put a new parking lot and a new driveway in. So I almost see if we can hold off baseball and say, but again, how it is. Everybody wants something.
Yeah.
The good news is they turned out excellent. The kids are happy. The only thing hurting them right now is the rain, and hopefully.
Would you say that those were the 2 worst fields, Dave, or
Those 2 weren't playable. Those were 2 that were built last year that we didn't finish because we didn't have the money.
Right. So like the other fields, Moose Field or whatever, wouldn't.
In my opinion, they're in good shape. I don't think we have any issue. I think they would always like more. I think you should be comfortable with what we did this year. At least in that complex, there's no question West Falls does need some work.
Yeah.
We did get that donation already of $1,000 from Rich Walls, where we've committed to matching. So we are going to do some work over there. How far do you want to go? I think that's a discussion. I know Train came to see you, right, Jim?
Yeah.
And then
I think maybe we, talk to the board and see if we can't give them a little something.
I mean, they are trying to fundraise. I think he mentioned they're going to do a fundraiser this year. They gave us 1,000 already. I think the goal is to try to get them to help contribute. I guess if they do pony up, I assume we would do too. The good news with them, they don't want me to do it till their season's over. So I do have time on that. That's probably late August, early September. So hopefully we get all the tennis court done and the pickleball courts done and try to get a handle on what we're spending on all this stuff.
Yeah.
That's kind of that good.
Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome.
I think I got everyone. Okay, motion to approve the abstract.
So moved.
Motion by Joe,
I'll second.
second by Chuck. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion to adjourn. Motion by Jim. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Joe. Any discussion? All in favor?